Tell us, what is America's involvement in all of this?
Well, American administration is trying to be neutral as much as they can, and they say. But on the other hand, there are many analysts and many Iranians all over the world that say, look, even the German parliament had a debate about this situation in Iran today. How come the US is not taking a more active role? On the other hand, aside from that, there are other analysts and other Iranians who say, where is President Jimmy Carter? Mr. Carter, who talked about human rights and violations of human rights 30 years ago, has not said a single word within the last 30 years about human rights in Iran.
And why do you think that's the case?
Well, it baffles everybody. Of course, he is a former president of the United States of America. Nobody wants to say anything that is insulting, but it's baffling. It's actually baffling.
So you believe that the US should be taking a much stronger stance against Iran and allowing these protests to continue openly and freely?
Well, I'm offering some analysts and some people's views because I've been in contact with many people all over the world, and I hear different views from different people. That's what I'm trying to offer to your viewers.
Well, would you not say, though, that President Obama is in a bit of a quandary? He's walking a very fine line at the moment.
And believe me, I don't envy him in this regard, because he's in a very tough situation, and Iranians, from whatever political inclination, whether it's the regime or otherwise, they are all very intelligent and very smart people with 10,000 years of history. It's very, very difficult to deal with them. You have to be very careful.
Well, if you can give us a little bit of insight, perhaps, on how America has tried to influence Iran politics and affairs in the past.
Well, originally, it was the Iranian politicians and statesmen who wanted to bring the United States of America into the politics of Iran. We are talking about 70, 80, 90 years ago. And then finally, after World War II, United States really came to Iran. And if you recall, well, you have heard about it in history books and read that after the World War II, after Iran was occupied by the US, the British, and the Soviet forces did not want to leave Iran, and it was the United States who pressured them to get out of Iran. So Iranians do not forget that. And now they are kind of thinking, there's a group of people who are thinking in the same terms. That, look, at that time you helped us, now we want you to help us again. So this is a very critical point in our history, and we want your support. We just don't want to stay out there and say, well, I don't want to meddle, because no matter what you say, no matter what you do as the American administration, the Iranian regime is going to call you a meddler. You are meddling in the affairs of Iran. But again, there are other people who say, look, the answer to that accusation from the Iranian regime is, look, you have been meddling in the affairs of other countries like Lebanon, like Palestine. How come now you are unhappy about meddling?
We have seen protests all around the world in support of these protesters wanting their vote counted. Tell us, how important are these expatriates?
Well, many of them are very important financially. They can support this movement financially. They have been demonstrating, I know for a fact, in the city of San Diego, in Southern California, in Irvine, in Los Angeles. There have been protests, very peaceful and civil protests, because people want their votes to be counted. And they say that within 4 hours it is impossible to count about 40 million paper ballots. Even with divine intervention, it's impossible. That's why they are so upset about it, and about the results that were based on the laws of the Islamic Republic, were announced illegally even before the voting was concluded.
Let me ask you this, a final question. Opposition candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi, if he was elected president, would he have a different relationship with the US?
Well, the scholars believe that had he been elected, or had he been called as the victor in this election, that would have been a sign by the regime, by the Ayatollah, by the supreme leader, that they wanted to make a deal with the United States. Whereas calling Mr. Ahmadinejad as the victor of this election, it means that they are going to defy the United States and the West, and they are going to become a good friend and associate of North Korea.